To the deep dive, the show where we, sift through the noise, stack up the sources, and really try to extract those surprising insights that give you a shortcut to being genuinely well-informed. Today, we're setting our compass for one of Europe's most enigmatic and often overlooked corners, the tiny, yet remarkably resilient Principality of Andorra. Our mission for this deep dive is to unpack what is, frankly, an extraordinary story.
It really is.
How this microstate, tucked away high in the Pyrenees, managed to transform itself from this medieval buffer zone steeped in feudal traditions into a modern, thriving success story. It's a curious narrative, definitely, full of historical quirks, a really unique political evolution, and an economic metamorphosis that almost seems to defy logic, given its geography and history.
Right.
We're peeling back the layers of its fascinating past, exploring its distinctive political structure, tracing its dramatic economic rise, immersing ourselves a bit in its vibrant cultural identity, and finally, examining the contemporary challenges it navigates today.
And it truly is a narrative that challenges conventional wisdom, doesn't it? When you consider Andorra's sheer geographical isolation. I mean, it's effectively a mountainous island surrounded by two huge, often turbulent neighbors, France and Spain.
Right.
Its very survival, let alone its eventual prosperity, is quite extraordinary. It's a profound testament to a unique ability to adapt, to innovate, and to fiercely guard its identity against what could easily have been, well, insurmountable odds. So this isn't just a tale of economic growth. It's a deep dive into how a small entity can leverage its unique circumstances, sometimes even its weaknesses, to carve out a distinct and successful path. You should prepare for some genuinely unexpected aha moments about how it managed that remarkable feat.
Okay, so let's unpack this geographical riddle first. Imagine a country so incredibly small,
Tiny,
that it fits entirely within the rugged embrace of the Eastern Pyrenees,
Ugh.
literally squeezed between those two European giants, France to the north, Spain to the south. We're talking about a landlocked nation, just 468 square kilometers.
It's just tiny, yeah, for perspective.
Right? It's smaller than New York City, even smaller than the island of Malta. Its physical constraints are just absolute. No coastline, no major navigable rivers, no commercial airport, no direct rail link.
Some passes.
Access is pretty much exclusively through these winding mountain passes, which can be really challenging, especially in winter. This geographical isolation isn't just a quirky detail. It is, in fact, the foundational element. It shaped basically every aspect of Andorra's history, its politics, its identity for centuries. You really have to visualize how utterly cut off it must have felt from the major currents of European history, a truly hidden valley.
And that profound isolation, paradoxically, is precisely why its origins are so unique and why it fostered such a powerful sense of, let's say, self-determination early on. Now, while the legend you often hear about Charlemagne granting independence to the local mountain people for fighting the Moors back in the 8th or 9th century,
Right, I've heard that one.
while it's largely mythical, it does speak to this enduring local narrative of ancient autonomy. But the real foundational moment, the truly ingenious legal innovation that definitively set Andorra on its path to protected sovereignty, that dates back to 1278. It's known as the Peerage.
The peerage, okay, that sounds like a crucial term here, and kind of unconventional, right? Almost like a diplomatic invention ahead of its time.
It absolutely was. This wasn't just a simple treaty, it was a complex medieval agreement, a co-sovereignty pact, essentially. It was signed between two incredibly powerful entities, the Count of Foix, a major French noble with huge territories, and the Bishop of Urgell, who was a really prominent religious and temporal figure in Catalonia, Spain.
Okay, so one French power, one Spanish power.
Exactly. And what this innovative document did was establish this highly unusual joint lordship over Andorra, instead of the typical fate, being swallowed whole by one neighbor or the other.
That usually happens.
This unique arrangement gave Andorra a form of institutionalized protection. It allowed the tiny principality to avoid being annexed by effectively, playing both sides diplomatically for centuries. It was a genius move of political survival, really, creating this protective feudal setup where neither co-sovereign could unilaterally claim full control.
So neither France nor Spain could just take it over.
Precisely.
Yeah.
It prevented either from fully absorbing it. Andorra became what we still call a co-principality, governed by two co-princes. Originally, these were the Count of Foix, and his rights, interestingly, eventually passed to the King of France, and then after the French Revolution, to the President of France.
Wow, okay.
And the Bishop of Urgell, a title that remains tied to the current Bishop of Urgell in Spain. And here's where it gets really fascinating.
Yeah.
This ancient arrangement, it persists even today. The current President of France and the Spanish Bishop of Urgell still hold these ceremonial titles as Andorra's joint heads of state.
That's incredible. So this medieval deal is still alive in the 21st century.
It's a remarkable, unbroken continuity. It really illustrates how legal ingenuity can be a powerful shield against, overwhelming geopolitical forces. It's like a masterclass in using legal frameworks for national survival, turning vulnerability into a unique kind of protection.
Okay, so for centuries, with this extraordinary political setup in place, what did daily life actually look like in this isolated mountain haven? I mean, I'm guessing it wasn't exactly a bustling center of European commerce or culture?
No, not at all. For a very long time, Andorra remained exactly that. Profoundly isolated, overwhelmingly rural, and frankly, quite poor. It held no significant strategic military value for its powerful neighbors, beyond just being a convenient, neutral buffer zone between their competing interests.
Makes sense. So what did people do?
Well, life for early Andorrans was incredibly simple. Very self-sufficient and deeply tied to the rhythms of the land. They were primarily shepherds and farmers, often just, eking out a subsistence living from the challenging mountain terrain. They relied on ingenuity, hard work. Daily existence was characterized by these tight-knit communities, strong family bonds, and a deep respect for traditions passed down through generations.
And how were they governed locally, despite these faraway co-princes?
Well, that's another interesting part. Despite being under the nominal authority of these distant co-princes, their governance had a surprisingly deep-seated local element. They established local councils, known as the Consell de la Terra, or Council of the Land, way back in the 15th century.
The 15th century, that's early.
It's extraordinary when you think about it. It's often cited as one of Europe's oldest continuously operating parliaments. It shows this early and persistent commitment to local self-governance. However, it's important to clarify, while these councils provided a voice and a way to manage local stuff, real power largely remained firmly in the hands of the two co-princes. Ah, okay.
It was a delicate balance, constantly negotiated. A degree of internal autonomy operating under the umbrella of that joint suzerainty.
And the tax system from this time, I read it, was unique, almost quaint, it sounded like. More ritual than revenue.
That's a good way to put it. It was indeed a very specific form of tribute, yeah. Taxes were incredibly low, largely symbolic. They served a much deeper political function than just raising money. Instead of hefty cash payments, Andorrans paid these annual tributes in kind to both co-princes.
In kind? Like what?
We're talking very tangible goods. Specific numbers of hams, cheeses, chickens.
Hams, cheeses, and chickens. Seriously?
Seriously. But these weren't just quirky traditions. They were crucial, tangible acts of fealty. And more importantly, they were a continuous diplomatic reaffirmation of Andorra's autonomy. By consistently giving these things to both France and Spain, Andorra was explicitly reminding its powerful neighbors, hey, remember this co-sovereignty deal? We're still holding up our end.
Ah, so it kept the deal visible, kept them from forgetting or trying to change it. Exactly. It prevented either from attempting to annex it outright. It was a constant, low-level diplomatic negotiation embedded in their daily lives. A clever way to maintain their unique status without provoking anyone. And you have to remember, for most of its history, Andorra was profoundly conservative, very inward-looking. Its population was minuscule for centuries, just a few thousand people, basically a few big families spread across the valleys until well into the 20th century.
Wow, just a few thousand.
Yeah. This isolation and small size fostered an incredibly strong sense of community, a shared identity, and this deep collective desire to preserve their unique traditional way of life against any outside influences.
So for centuries, Andorra remained this quiet, almost forgotten corner. Its unique feudal system kept it safe, maybe poor and isolated, but safe. But, no fortress, no matter how remote, can entirely escape the winds of change. The 19th and early 20th centuries, while maybe still relatively quiet for Andorra compared to elsewhere, started to subtly stir things up, hinting at the huge transformations to come.
That's right. While the rest of Europe was going through massive revolutions, industrialization, major political upheavals,
Big changes.
Andorra seemed to exist in its own kind of time bubble. It largely kept its medieval structures intact.
How did it manage that?
It's partly a testament to how deeply ingrained their unique system was. but also, maybe crucially, how little direct strategic interest its powerful neighbors had in fundamentally changing things there. While France went through revolutions, republics, empires, and Spain cycled through monarchies and civil strife, Andorra mostly just endured, quietly. There was, however, one notable internal adaptation in 1866. It was called the New Reform.
Okay, what did that do?
It was Actually, it updated their local governance structure, created a slightly more democratic general council, and gave a bit more say to the local population, especially the heads of families, and how the principality was run. But crucially, it still remained firmly under the joint suzerainty of the co-princes. It maintained that delicate balance of power.
Still reporting to France and the bishop.
The real turning point, though, the moment the seeds of its future prosperity were really sown, came in the 20th century, particularly around the time of the major European conflicts that reshaped the whole continent.
And you're talking about its strategic neutrality here, aren't you? And how, almost by accident, that laid the groundwork for its completely different economic future, something far removed from hams and chickens.
Exactly. The Spanish Civil War from 1936 to 1939 and then World War II both played a pivotal, if unexpected, role in Andorra's evolution. Andorra managed to assert and maintain its neutrality, becoming the sort of oasis of calm in a really chaotic Europe.
Right.
And because it had no income tax or significant customs duties, which was a direct legacy of that old symbolic tribute system, an informal, sort of nascent tax haven began to emerge, almost accidentally.
The lack of taxes became an advantage.
Critical pivot point in its economic evolution, yeah. Smugglers, navigating the war-torn borders, found Andorra incredibly convenient. They used it as a channel to transport essential goods, luxury goods between Spain and France.
Okay, so smuggling became a thing.
Yeah, and while obviously illicit, this activity inadvertently gave Andorrans a real taste of cross-border commerce. It introduced them to supply and demand on a larger scale, and it highlighted the huge potential benefits of its unique tax status. It subtly but surely foreshadowed the massive economic shift that was coming, moving from isolated agrarian subsistence to a thriving commercial hub based on trade and low taxation. This seemingly informal economy was a vital bridge to its future. It showed how dormant geographical and legal advantages can, sometimes even accidentally, lay the groundwork for future economic success.
Okay, so from this feudal buffer zone, paying medieval tributes, to a modern nation stepping onto the global stage, Andorra's political transformation is, well, it's truly remarkable. This wasn't like a sudden revolution, right? More like a very deliberate, slow, carefully negotiated journey towards modernity that took decades.
Indeed, very much so. Despite those subtle internal shifts we mentioned in the 19th and early 20th centuries, Andorra's core political system remained remarkably feudal for an incredibly long time, well into the late 20th century. The big, truly pivotal moment, the culmination of decades of internal debate and, let's face it, external pressure, was the adoption of its modern constitution in 1993.
1993, that's relatively recent.
Very recent in historical terms. And this wasn't a unilateral declaration. It was the result of extensive, complex negotiations with both France and Spain. It marked a formal agreement by everyone involved to recognize Andorra as a fully sovereign parliamentary democracy.
So France and Spain had to agree to it too.
Absolutely. And what's so fascinating about this transition is how it ingeniously managed to harmonize those ancient feudal ties with modern democratic principles. The co-princes, the president of France and the Spanish bishop of Urgell, they remain joint heads of state, but their powers are now carefully limited and largely symbolic. Exactly. They represent continuity, that direct link to Andorra's unique history and its long-standing neutrality, rather than wielding actual day-to-day power. The separation of ceremonial and functional power allowed Andorra to step onto the world stage without cutting the very historical threads that had protected its existence for so long.
So it's a very clear separation of powers then. The actual governing is done by elected officials, but the co-princes provide that unique historical anchor, that legitimacy.
Sure, precisely. Key features of modern Andorran politics now include a unicameral parliament, meaning it has a single legislative chamber called the General Council.
Okay.
This structure, while simpler than many systems, helps streamline decision-making, which is pretty crucial for a microstate like Andorra where efficiency matters, given its tight-knit community and fast-changing economy. The head of government, their prime minister, is elected by this council, ensuring a direct democratic mandate. This whole sophisticated political evolution also paved the way for Andorra's formal integration into the international community. It joined the United Nations in 1993.
A huge step for such a small place.
Monumental, giving it a voice and recognition on the global stage. Shortly after, in 1994, it joined the Council of Europe. Its relationship with the European Union is also particularly unique. It uses the euro.
Right, they use the euro.
A specific monetary agreement with the EU, which shows its deep economic ties, but it's not a full EU member.
Interesting. So they get some benefits, but keep some distance.
Exactly. It highlights its continued strategic desire to maintain a degree of autonomy, especially fiscal flexibility, while still benefiting significantly from being integrated into the wider European economic sphere. It's a masterful balancing act, really, reflecting its long history of careful diplomatic navigation.
Okay, so let's connect the dots then. From its past as this poor agrarian buffer zone, maybe getting a bit of a boost from informal smuggling, what does all this political evolution mean for Andorra's economy today?
I mean, the story is one of absolute transformation, right? From basic survival to this thriving, prosperous, modern economy. I've seen the GDP per capita figures, they're astonishing. The transformation truly is profound. It's a case study in reinvention. As we touched on, historically, Andorra's economy was rudimentary subsistence farming, livestock, that cross-border smuggling. But the mid-20th century ignited an economic revolution driven by two colossal engines: tourism and banking.
Tourism and banking, the two big ones.
The tourism boom really took off from the 1950s onwards. It started attracting visitors, mostly from France and Spain initially, who were drawn by two irresistible things: the promise of duty-free shopping for all sorts of goods.
The cheap booze and cigarettes effect.
Pretty much, yeah. And the stunning, easily accessible mountain scenery. Then, in the 1960s and 70s, came strategic investment in infrastructure. They started opening ski resorts like Pas de la Casa and Soldó. That rapidly turned Andorra into a premier winter sports destination.
So the very mountains that had previously isolated them suddenly became their biggest asset, like a literal gold mine.
Exactly, a truly remarkable reversal of fortune. And at the same time, the banking sector experienced this meteoric growth. Andorra cultivated a reputation for stringent banking secrecy and extremely low taxes.
The classic tax haven model.
Which naturally attracted significant foreign deposits and capital from people across Europe looking for discretion and minimal taxation. For several decades, this firmly established its identity as a prominent tax haven, a magnet for international money.
Right.
The combined effect, the synergy between these two sectors, tourism driving direct economic activity and banking acting as this financial hub, was nothing short of extraordinary. Andorra's GDP per capita grew at an astonishing pace. By the early 2000s, it had amazingly become one of the richest countries in Europe by nominal GDP per capita.
Yeah, the richest. That's incredible.
The speed and the sheer scale of this economic shift from a poor agrarian society to a wealthy, sophisticated, service-based economy in just a few decades is truly a testament to its unique competitive advantages and its strategic adaptability.
But as you said, the world keeps turning. And the global financial landscape, especially around transparency, has changed dramatically. So Andorra's economy today must look pretty different than it did even 20 or 30 years ago, particularly as it moves away from that pure tax haven image.
You're absolutely right. Andorra has embarked on a deliberate and significant journey to reform its financial sector. It's been actively trying to shed that tax haven label and align with international standards. It has signed numerous bilateral and multilateral agreements with many countries for tax information exchange, increasing transparency. It's a very deliberate, ongoing shift towards greater openness and compliance with OECD and EU directives.
So the banks had to change.
Definitely. Today, while banking and finance are still important, they are a much smaller slice of the overall economic pie than before. They've been modernized, made more transparent. The key sector now is overwhelmingly dominated by tourism. It still remarkably accounts for about 80% of its GDP.
80%, wow.
Millions of visitors descend on Andorra each year, especially for skiing in its impressive interconnected resorts like Gran Valira and Val Nord.
And the shopping thing, the duty-free status, that's still a massive draw, isn't it? It almost feels like a throwback in modern Europe.
Oh, absolutely. Retail, specifically that duty-free shopping, remains a colossal business. It's a primary reason for many cross-border day trippers, especially from France and Spain. Tourists can find significantly cheaper alcohol, tobacco, perfumes, high-end electronics, fashion items compared to prices just across the border. It makes it an extremely attractive destination for bargain hunting.
So beyond tourism and the modernized banking, What else is there?
Well, real estate also plays a significant role. It attracts wealthy foreigners looking for both the scenic Pyrenean lifestyle and still relatively advantageous tax rates. Because while Andorra did introduce a personal income tax in 2015, which was a huge step historically,
Right, centuries with no direct tax.
its rates remain remarkably low, typically under 10% for both personal and corporate tax, which is still very attractive for foreign investment and, high net worth individuals. To give you a concrete sense of its current scale, its nominal GDP is around 3 billion euros, serving a population of only about 80,000 people.
3 billion for 80,000 people. That really underscores the exceptional per capita wealth.
It does. The economic output per person is very high.
Let's dive just a bit deeper into tourism then, because that 80% figure for GDP is just mind-blowing for such a tiny country. How does it manage to attract such an incredible volume of visitors every year? What's the secret sauce there?
It truly is an extraordinary tourism powerhouse. It's a testament to really strategic investment and offering a diverse range of things. In winter, skiing is undeniably the main draw, and Andorra has invested heavily to create genuinely world-class facilities. Gran Valira, for example, isn't just a ski area, it's one of the largest interconnected ski domains in the entire Pyrenees.
Over 200 kilometers of slopes, I think I read.
That's right, over 200 kilometers. This significant offering competes easily with, and often surpasses, much larger European ski destinations in terms of infrastructure, lifts, snow quality. But Andorra has been shrewd. It's diversified beyond just winter sports.
Smart move.
In summer, it actively promotes a wide array of outdoor activities. You've got world-class hiking trails through stunning natural parks, mountain biking routes that actually draw international competitions.
Oh, cool.
And a growing number of wellness resorts and spas, like the famous Caldea Center, that leverage its natural thermal waters. Ecotourism is also gaining traction, playing on the pristine natural environment of the Pyrenees.
Makes sense. Leverage the natural beauty year-round.
Exactly. And of course, as you highlighted, the shopping component is huge. That duty-free status creates a significant price advantage, turning it into a kind of consumer paradise for visitors from neighboring countries. Beyond that, there's a growing emphasis on cultural tourism, too. Inviting visitors to explore its rich heritage, those beautifully preserved medieval churches, the unique Romanesque art, charming traditional villages like Ordino. They offer a different kind of appeal, a glimpse into its long history.
So it's not just ski and shop.
No, they're broadening the appeal. Andorra has poured significant investment into its tourism infrastructure, everything from luxurious hotels and expansive spas to modern shopping centers. They cater to a wide range of visitors, from budget-conscious shoppers to those seeking high-end luxury, and the numbers, they really speak for themselves. Annual visitor numbers are estimated at an astounding 7 to 8 million.
7 to 8 million visitors for a country of 80,000 people.
It's an absolutely remarkable ratio, 100 times its population visits every year. It's a powerful engine for its prosperity, no doubt.
Okay, moving beyond the economics and politics, what really makes Andorra tick culturally? Being at such a crossroads, its culture must be this fascinating blend of old traditions and modern influences, reflecting its unique position in history.
It is indeed a captivating cultural tapestry. It shows remarkable resilience and adaptability. Andorran culture is profoundly rooted in its Catalan heritage. That's a vibrant and distinctive cultural identity it shares with the broader Catalan-speaking regions of Spain and France. But it's infused with these unique traditions born from centuries of isolated mountain life in the Pyrenees. That gives it a truly singular character.
And language reflects that. Catalan's official, but I imagine French and Spanish are everywhere.
Absolutely. Linguistically, Catalan is the official and dominant language. It's spoken by the majority of the native population and enshrined in the Constitution. However, because of its location, its history of trade, and significant immigration, Spanish, French, and also Portuguese are very widely spoken. It creates this wonderfully multilingual and cosmopolitan environment day to day.
Portuguese, too.
Yeah.
Like Portuguese.
Significant immigration from Portugal over the years, especially for work in construction and tourism. So yeah, this linguistic diversity isn't just convenient. It's a living reflection of Andorra's identity as a kind of bridge between cultures.
And is religion still a strong part of the cultural identity?
Yes, the predominant faith is Catholic, and you'll find many old Romanesque churches scattered throughout the country. They're often beautifully preserved, standing as these enduring testaments to its long history and cultural devotion. These churches aren't just historical sites either. Many are still active centers of community life.
What about festivals and food? Always tells you a lot about a place.
Oh, definitely. Festivals are central to Andorran life. They offer vibrant displays of tradition and community spirit. You have St. Jordi in April, celebrating books and roses, which is a beautiful tradition borrowed from Catalonia. And then there's Our Lady of Miraxell Day on September 8th. That's their patron saint, the major national holiday, marked by solemn ceremonies but also joyful celebrations. You'll also still find traditional dances, unique folk music, and elaborate feasts celebrated with great enthusiasm in the mountain villages, especially during local patron saint festivals.
And the food. Mountain food, I guess.
Hearty, comforting mountain fare, yeah. Clear Catalan and French influences designed to sustain life in the high altitudes. Think warming dishes like trinxet.
Trinxet, what's that?
Oh, it's delicious. A blend of sautéed cabbage, potato, and usually some pork, bacon, or pancetta. Or escudella, which is a comforting, really robust meat and vegetable stew. Plus, they have a variety of wonderful local cheeses and cured meats.
Sounds good. Proper comfort food.
Definitely. It sounds like a place where traditions are deeply cherished, but it's also incredibly connected to the outside world. That must create a fascinating dynamic.
Yeah, that mix sounds key.
Precisely. Despite its small size and traditional roots, Andorra has become quite cosmopolitan, largely thanks to tourism, but also a continuous influx of immigrants drawn by economic opportunities. This immigration has dramatically shaped its demographics. It's a striking statistic, but about roughly half of the residents in Andorra are foreigners.
Half the population, wow.
Mainly Spanish, Portuguese, and French, but also from many other parts of the world. This creates a really interesting and complex dynamic when you think about national identity in a microstate, where the native Andorran population is actually numerically a minority.
That is a challenge. How do you maintain a distinct Andorran identity?
Exactly. How do you preserve its unique cultural heritage, protect its official language, Catalan, while embracing such a diverse demographic blend? It raises fundamental questions about social cohesion, cultural integration, the very definition of nationhood in a globalized world. It's a challenge many small nations face, and Andorra is certainly navigating it with, thoughtful language policies and cultural initiatives.
Okay, so no country, no matter how successful or unique its path, is without its challenges. As we look forward, what does the future hold for this curious microstate? What are the pressures on this unique balancing act it seems to constantly perform?
Andorra definitely faces several significant challenges, and many of them are directly linked to its very success and its ongoing integration into the global economy. Firstly, those tax reforms we talked about, necessary to align with EU and international transparency standards, they did mean Andorra lost some of its historical banking secrecy advantages.
Right, the old model had to change.
This has required its financial sector to rapidly adapt, become more competitive on different grounds, maybe focusing on specialization rather than just pure discretion. Secondly, and perhaps most critically, is that profound economic dependence on tourism.
That 80% figure again.
Exactly. With tourism making up such a huge chunk of GDP, it leaves Andorra incredibly vulnerable to external shocks. The COVID-19 lockdowns, for instance, had a devastating impact.
I bet.
It effectively shut down its primary economic engine for months. It was a stark reminder of the risks of such concentrated economic reliance.
And I imagine with all that popularity, foreign investment, wealthy residents, housing prices must be a major issue for locals, straining the community fabric.
They absolutely are. High demand for property, especially from foreign investors seeking residency or holiday homes, has pushed housing prices up significantly. It really strains affordability for local Andorrans.
Makes it hard for young people to stay.
It does. It creates a real social tension, making it difficult for younger generations to afford to live in their home country and maintain that traditional community structure. Demographically, like many developed nations, Andorra is facing the twin challenges of an aging native population and a reliance on foreign workers to sustain its economy, particularly in tourism and services. Maintaining social services, a balanced workforce, and these present ongoing challenges.
But politically, it seems stable.
Oh yes. On the political front, Andorra remains remarkably peaceful and stable. Coalition governments are common, reflecting a generally consensual political culture. And while the two co-princes have minimal day-to-day power, they continue to serve as really important unifying symbols of neutrality, tradition, national identity. They offer this unique sense of continuity amidst all the change.
So, as it looks to the future, what are the really big questions that will define Andorra's path? It sounds like sustainability in multiple ways is right at the core.
You've hit on the central theme there. The big questions for Andorra truly revolve around long-term sustainability. Can it continue this unique balancing act, maintaining its identity, attracting wealth, and preserving its environment? Economic diversification is a key strategic focus. There are concerted efforts to attract high-value digital services, foster innovation hubs, encourage long-term residents who contribute to sectors beyond just tourism and traditional finance. They're trying to broaden the economic base, reduce that vulnerability.
Makes sense. Don't put all your eggs in one basket.
Precisely. But perhaps the most existential threat comes from environmental concerns. The Pyrenees, where Andorra is nestled, are incredibly vulnerable to climate change.
The snow.
Rising temperatures, diminishing snowfall, they directly threaten the ski industry, which, as we've established, is its primary economic driver. This is a very real, tangible, immediate threat to its future prosperity and way of life. It's forcing Andorra to innovate even more aggressively in areas like summer tourism, ecotourism, things that are less snow-dependent.
A huge pressure.
And finally, Andorra is in ongoing complex negotiations for a closer association agreement with the EU. This is a really delicate process. It seeks to further integrate economically with the EU's single market,
Get those benefits.
while fiercely maintaining its political independence, its unique tax regime, its distinct identity. It's a testament, again, to its long-standing approach. Careful, strategic negotiation to preserve its distinct character, even as the global landscape shifts relentlessly around it.
So what does this all mean for you, our listener? Andorra's story is, well, it's a profound testament to survival, adaptation, and truly unique governance. It's a narrative that shows how a tiny, isolated medieval buffer zone, once paying tributes in hams and chickens, transformed itself through ingenuity and strategic foresight into a modern, thriving tourist magnet and a prosperous microstate. It truly shows how even the smallest countries, by leveraging their unique advantages and adapting intelligently, can chart their own incredibly distinctive path, often against all odds.
And this raises, I think, an important question for all of us as we look at the future of small nations in general. As global challenges like climate change intensify and that relentless drive for transparency and international economic alignment continues, can Andorra continue this remarkable, unique balancing act? Can it preserve its deeply rooted identity and traditions while constantly reinventing its success story for a new era? Its past has shown incredible resilience, but the future demands perhaps a different kind of innovation. And it really makes you wonder, doesn't it, about other small nations around the world. What similar pressures are they facing? And how might they adapt in equally unexpected and fascinating ways?